this will not affect Nintendo's bottom line at all.
No, unfortunately.
Right? People will still go out and buy it.
Yep.
But if you continue to make actions like this, specifically in this age of social media, you will see, I think you will see a long-term trickle effect of just... Now, Nintendo they're in a weird place right now with a lot of people. Now, look, everything we're talking about will not affect their bottom line. They're going to sell out the Switch 2. Millions of people are going to buy the games. They're going to be making money hand over fist with all this stuff. But from a perception standpoint, there are some things that are taking even the most hardcore Nintendo fans right now and making them kind of prick their eyebrow up a little bit and go like, yo, what's going on here, right? Starting with this Pal World Pokemon lawsuit that's been going on. And we saw a little bit of news on this. This is coming from IGN. The Pal World developer Pocket Pair says it's being forced to patch the game due to Nintendo and their Pokemon company and the Pokemon company's lawsuit here. Now, after Pal World's launch, comparisons were being made between Pal World's Pal and Pokemon. We've seen that. And some were saying that Pokemon was, or that Pocket Pair was ripping off the Pokemon designs. Now, Pal World sold a ton of copies of the game, and it's done very, very well. But a little bit later, Pocket Pair provided an update admitting recent changes made to the game were indeed a result of the legal threats from Nintendo, because they went in and got pissed. Pocket Pair confirmed that this patch released in November 2024 was the result of ongoing litigation, as players suspected. This patch removed the ability to summon pals by throwing pal spheres and instead changed it to a static summon next to the player. Several other game mechanics were also changed this patch. Pocket Pair said that it hadn't made these changes to Pal World. If it hadn't done, the alternative would have led to an even greater deterioration of the gameplay experience for the players. But it doesn't stop there. Pocket Pair, didn't proofread, said that today's patch makes further changes to Pal World so that gliding will be performed using a glider rather than with its pals. Pals in the player's team will still provide passive buffs to gliding, but players will now need to have a glider in the inventory to offer to glide. So Pocket Pair called these changes compromises the studio is being forced to make out of fear of an injunction being granted that could block the development and sale of Pal World. We understand that this will be disappointing for many, just as it is, but we hope our fans understand that these changes are necessary in order to prevent further disruptions to the development of Pal World. So, despite its changes, Pocket Pair said it will continue to dispute the claims made in the lawsuit, focusing on asserting the invalidity of the patents here, which is Nintendo says patenting these sort of things. So, that's kind of where we're at. Games are literally being changed now due to litigation. Jeff, would love to hear your thoughts on this.
You know, I have not played Pal World, and I haven't played Pokemon in a long time, but Nintendo has that long history of always being so litigious, so I'm not surprised. But if people like what Pal World offers, I hope it works out in their favor, because as much as I used to love Nintendo, I don't really care about them as much as I used to.
I think your statement is echoed by actually a lot of folks who go in and they see what Nintendo's doing, and it kind of tarnishes the reputation a little bit. I'm one of them where like I love Nintendo. Nintendo was a big part of my childhood, and I'm not blind or ignorant to the fact that these are multi-billion-dollar companies, and I'm also not blind or ignorant to the fact that Nintendo has gone out of its way for years to be extremely litigious, you know, whether it's been for emulation or protecting any of their IPs. But I've said this before on the show, the same reasons you love Nintendo, right? Their characters, their games are the same reason why you hate Nintendo, because they are so fiercely protective of those things. By them being so fiercely protective of those things, it allows them to produce the games that you love, in theory. Now, this is a little bit different because they have these copyrights and you know, they're very protective over things that are happening in the game. Vera says, Japan's always strict with copyright, but my opinion will always be that game mechanics shouldn't be patented. Blooper has one on dual reality gameplay. Nintendo has the Sanity system. Even look at what happened with Monolith with the Nemesis system. All great systems, they're now shelved here. So, and this is in response right here to this. Now, Cabrutus over here, founder of DEI Detective, says Nintendo makes Sony and Microsoft both look like angels. As right here says Nintendo reserves the right to brick your console following unauthorized use in bid to prevent piracy. And you may be asking yourself, what the hell are you talking about? Well, we have this other story here from NintendoEverything.com. You can see it right here. Nintendo says it could brick Switch systems if users bypass, modify, decrypt, tamper, or defeat, tamper with their games in an updated agreement here. So
if they like jailbreak their Switch, they get into big bad trouble.
Yes. It says following an update to the Nintendo account user agreement, the company has warned that it may brick Switch systems by those who do all those things. The particular agreement needs to be agreed upon before you can access Switch's various systems, including the eShop, Switch Online games, and games previously purchased digitally. Basically, unless you're strictly physical on everything, this agreement is something you need to sign off on. Here's how the agreement looked previously, which was in effect since April of 2021. You are not allowed to lease, rent, sublicense, publish, copy, modify, adapt, translate, reverse, blah, 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 any portion of the Nintendo account services without Nintendo's written consent or unless otherwise expressly permitted by applicable law. The updated version is as follows. Goo! They have extended it out and popped it here. It says something else that caught the eye of the fans this week is that Nintendo said it may monitor or record chat sessions as well.
Welcome to Call of Duty.
Yes. So this is interesting. And Blabs, I know you're not a Grums guy, but he did have this yesterday and it kind of popped off, and there was pushback from him as well here on this. But I wanted to bring this up. It says the Nintendo we love is dying. Sues Palworld with patent over recently filed as a gotcha instead of making better Pokemon games. Makes $80 games the norm, making Xbox and others raise their game prices. The CEO doubles down on DEI. It's over. What you loved is no different than any other AAA game company right now. Right now, there was some pushback from this. Nina Infinity in particular said, "Give me a break, Grums. Nintendo has always been like this to some degree. They're always vicious and litigious, protecting their IP. The moment Palworld became a thing, I knew Nintendo was going to sue the shit out of them. Also, $80 are not a big deal if you count inflation and natural price changes of things. You're completely rage baiting and it's tired. Honestly, you're no different from rage farmers at this point." He said the Wii U and Switch were priced reasonably. Anyways, they had like a good back and forth here, right? And he says, "You call it vicious. Is that okay?" Anyways, she more or less agreed with his points here based off of, what he's saying. Just how he framed it is what she was so upset about.
Well, yeah, he is rage baiting, but I do agree that it's not the same Nintendo anymore. Just like all the other companies, they are shells of their former selves.
Right. And I don't know, Jeff, I'd love to hear. You said you have felt some sort of disconnect with Nintendo. When did that start for you?
Around the Switch era, because I skipped the Wii U completely, because the Wii, let's do it back to the Wii. That was kind of a garbage system. I waited in line for it, like the second week it came out. I loved Zelda, I loved Smash Brothers, and then it was a bunch of shovelware crap, and the game sucked. And Nintendo was so far behind the times in terms of technological improvements. Online was garbage. It wasn't high definition, and the games that were considered their AAA games, like I love Twilight Princess. That's just a GameCube game ported over. And so I jumped to the Switch because I skipped the Wii U, and I enjoy Zelda, and I enjoyed a couple of games, and then other better games came out on other consoles, and then I thought, well, Zelda's coming back. Let's play a new Zelda game, and it's the same game with just a new upper and lower map. And I was like, I paid more money for this. And then their DLC's garbage, and I'm also a little angry because I bought the Smash Brothers DLC. It didn't take, and they wanted me to buy it again, and I never did. And so overall, it's just I've had a bunch of really bad consumer experiences as a Nintendo fan, and I am just kind of done. Now, the Switch 2 doesn't even look interesting to me, and most of their library is just other games. It's like, oh, you can play this and that game. I can play it on my Xbox. I can play it on the PC. I'm kind of over Nintendo. Like, the veil's been removed. They're no different. They're just cashing in on their IP. They want to make theme parks and movies and all that stuff, and, fine, more power to them. But I'm not blinded by nostalgia. They don't really offer enough for my money anymore. So I'm just kind of done.
Well, the response online has kind of, there's definitely been backlash to this, as Power World has been very public about or at least as public as I guess they can be in any sort of litigious situation. But you can see their quote tweets to Power World's tweets as a reminder that Nintendo is an anti-consumer piece of shit company that has, 1,000 likes to it.
I agree.
Anyone still defending Nintendo can kindly fuck off a cliff. This is clearly a mafioso tactics. Please tell me what Pokemon allows you to glide in game. And that's the thing I was thinking about. I don't remember any Pokemon allowing you to do any sort of gliding. It says it wasn't obvious, but this type of bullshit is what will kill the industry if we allow these corpos to keep it up.
Yeah, I think it's just ridiculous. Patenting game mechanics is just wild, absolutely wild. Like, what? We're gonna start patenting the jump button soon? Like, fuck?
You joke, but
exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, you just can't, or else it's just, when do you stop? Again, the slippery slope bullshit.
And what's with this? Like, the goodwill that they've built up with generations is fine, but this is delusional at some point. And I think a lot of Nintendo fans, like Disney fans, they're these companies that put garbage out and people lap it up because it made them happy when they were younger. I had a happy childhood and I'm not a miserable guy, but I see the reality of the situation. The stuff that was great is still great, but the newer stuff is lesser than, and that's across the board with every form of entertainment. These people that own everything are putting in less effort, they're charging more, and idiots are jumping online. I gotta buy it on day one.
Yep.
You people suck.
Yep,
Yeah, I said you people.
Slop. Just accepting the slop. Just consume. This is like the problem. And it's ironic because I was literally just talking about this with my mom yesterday. She was like, when we were talking about David Attenborough actually turning 99, she's like, all these old people are still around and in charge. Your generation does absolutely nothing. It's kind of true if you think about it. Like, what are we giving? What are we making? Besides like the one-off of the Expedition 33, right? Reddit writer, was it SoundCloud or whatever it was, the composer, like up and coming. Those are the odd exceptions, but everything else is like taking from already existing and changing the source material and adapting it, and it's just make new stuff that's good, and it just doesn't seem to be really happening all that much.
So here's the problem: is that Nintendo does make good stuff. Is they make really good stuff.
Yeah, they have.
Yeah, and they will continue to be, right? They will continue to make good games. That's the reality. Nintendo is still Nintendo. There's a reason why people buy the Switch 2 and bought the Switch. We've seen the sales numbers. Was it 29 out of the top 30 Switch games are Nintendo IP, right? People buy, it's a Nintendo console, not a video game console. This will not affect Nintendo's bottom line at all.
No, unfortunately.
Right? People will still go out and buy it.
Yep.
But if you continue to make actions like this, specifically in this age of social media, you will see, I think you will see a long-term trickle effect of just people being able to distance. The further and further people get away from their childhood, the people who have buying power, that's where it could start affecting it. Potentially, maybe, possibly.
I think you were right the first time when you said this AIDS of social media. I think that's true also.
I said age.
Instead of age. Yeah, no, you said aid the first time, and you're like, this age. And I'm like, the first time was right.
Like I said, I 100%, I've admitted this. I am part of the problem. Do I have it? Did I pre-order a Switch 2? No. Will I get a Switch 2? Probably. Yeah, probably.
I think it looks great. I think the games coming out look great. It's just not for me. Was it Super Joe saying we're on the hate bandwagon? No, I'm hating on the prices and the greedy corporations. I think the Switch 2 looks cool. If it was really cheap and I was playing my Switch more than I am, I would definitely get it. But I just don't, so it doesn't seem reasonable for me to get it.
I don't even think the console's overly priced. I think the games for what you get, like, oh, it's Mario Kart. It looks like the last Mario Kart. I don't care how many new assets you tell me are built. All the last couple generations of Nintendo games are just slightly, it's like you turn the resolution up a drop. Oh, but it's open world and this and that. I don't care. That's not enough. And at the end of the day, you drive in a loop 3 times and you win. That's it. That's Mario Kart. And it's been like that for 30 years. It's not worth $80.
It's a family-friendly game. Gaming should just be fun. I don't know why it's starting to become like this privilege where you have to spend $80.
Right, and like, you know, Joe's like, to be clear, I'm not hopping on the Nintendo hate bandwagon at all. I am pointing out an observation that we're seeing across social media right here. I wish Nintendo, like, this is, you know, 5,000 views on it over here. We have this right here. This person, I fucking hate Pokemon. Nintendo, bro. Absolutely bitch made behavior. You can't even fucking glide in a Pokemon game ever, much less fly like you can in Power World. Not buying a Switch 2, not buying any more Nintendo or Pokemon products. Digimon was always way better. Alpha over here. You can love Pokemon and dislike Power World, but whatever. This is just plain evil. Nintendo are going out of their way to make sure that only one game even slightly resembles the competition. Worse if not outright kill it. Pokemon is too comfortable on top. They need to lose this. This is just a growing trend that we're seeing. That's all. Like I said, I am part of the problem. I get it. And I've said this many times on the show. The sooner that you can realize, you, normal man, you, Blabs, you, Jeff, that we're all fucking hypocrites. We're all hypocrites, right? The better off you'll be, you know. So it's interesting, man. It's interesting. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Because I do feel like there has been a sentiment across the board online that, look, there's the shills who are going to love Nintendo no matter what. They're going to put on the blinders. But from those who have loved, even those, there's been a crack in the armor of Nintendo over the last little bit.
When I opened up, it was really the Wii being such a disappointment. And it's kind of like with Rockstar. They're milking Grand Theft Auto forever. Grand Theft Auto was the game I'd wait in line for and play forever. And then it's been 13 years because you just want to sell online DLC, which, here's my stand. I never bought it once on principle. I'll just play the single player in that. With Nintendo, I have seen this sentiment. And, you know, it's going to eventually affect them. The whole region lock thing, how they're making it cheaper in Japan to get the Switch 2 versus over here because of all these other reasons. It's nothing new, man. They used to do this back in the day with they limited companies. That's why they had to do Ultra Games, and Konami had to release their games through that. There was the chip shortage, the shit they pulled with Sony. Like, I am not pro any big company, but I do like looking back through history how the PlayStation took Nintendo's disrespect at was it CES 94 or some crap like that, and they came out with the PlayStation and they beat them every subsequent generation except with the Wii, because the PS3 didn't do that well. And, you know, Sony's doing their own crap. I got my own issues with them. It's the only reason I don't own a PS5. But I think people are just kind of waking up to how all these companies work. Maybe it's because things were rough. Maybe because we lived through a pandemic or some crap like that, and people's eyes are open. People just fed up with crap. You know? I think a lot of these companies got away with making a ton of money when people were at home. They want to do things to keep making that money. They want their margins to be a certain level. And Joe Gamer is just like, hey, screw it, I'm done. And hey, you have every right to. Personally, the Switch 2 is not happening for me unless, like, Ocarina of Time got a 4K remake with, like, I don't know, it was amazing. That's the only way I'd buy that system. Out of the blue. Like, if it's cheap, if the games eventually go below $80 and they're back to 60, oh, maybe.
And people can always just go back to all the games that they previously owned, all the retro games, the early 2000s. It's limitless. It's all there.
Yeah.
All right. Why don't you get this massive super that just came in? Let's stinking go. Is that from Joey? Let's go. Look at this. Joey came in with a 50. Says, it doesn't surprise me that Nintendo is suing Power World because it is far too similar to Pokemon in a lot of ways. So a lawsuit was expected. I agree that mechanics should be patented. What? Oh, Jesus Christ.
Dude, it wouldn't work, and then it finally worked.
Okay.
Oh, it's working.
I agree that, yes, it's working all right. I agree that mechanics shouldn't be patented, but it is most likely to happen, and we should stop it. Joey, thank you so much for your wonderful support. By the way, I want to let you know we have copyrighted using boobs as a monetary incentive on the show. So if anybody does that, period,
Suck it, Nintendo.
and all OnlyFans girls.
I was gonna say, you have to sue a lot of women on OnlyFans to.
Yes.
Maybe you'll win one or two of those cases.
Fight us, Amaranth.
We're gonna make that happen. Yeah, go fuck off, you insensitive little twits. Right? Where's that? You just had a blast.
Fuck off, you oversensitive little shit.
There we go.